and thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America, and today we're going to talk about education. Exactly what has happened. What's the future of education as we once knew it, as we know it now, and how that's going to change the future for all of us, parenting children, and we've got the perfect expert to share all of that with us, Dr. Berenecea Johnson Eanes, who is the new president of York College, and welcome to the CUNY family, Dr. Eanes. We are thrilled. You come with terrific recommendations, and we're delighted that you're in charge of York College now.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, thank you. Good to see you.
All right, and I do want to tell you that I grew up in Jamaica, Queens, so I know the area. I'm a Queens girl, a Jamaica girl, and York, has done fantastic things for the education world of the community. Tell us a little bit about what Jamaica is like now. Most of your 8,500 students, 8,500 students, that's a lot of students, are from the community. Talk with us about that.
So York College serves predominantly the students of this community. We are of Jamaica, Queens. I'm sure, as you know and many others know, York was founded by virtue of a community action activated wanting to have an institution of higher learning in this area for the students of this area. This particular community, as everyone knows, Queens is one of the most diverse cities or boroughs, places in the world, right? And York is no different. I think that one of the things that I value so much is the diversity and inclusion of the CUNY system, and also York in particular. We have a very, very vibrant local flavor to everything that goes on. There's a lot of reactivation and activity in Southeast Queens. I'm sure a lot of people are aware of the Greater Jamaica Redevelopment Initiatives and all of the activity around JFK and LaGuardia, all of the things that our local civic leaders have been working on for a long time. So I really could not be happier to have been chosen to be the permanent president here.
So you are in almost complete remote mode now, learning. Talk to us a little bit about what that's like. I know your clinical classes still have to go on, but most of your students are remote learning. Most of your teaching staff now has to handle teaching in that way. How is that going?
So first, I really have to commend the faculty and the staff of York College for being able to pivot in such a very quick and nimble way. When you and I both know that one of the most enhancing and wonderful experiences of being in college is being with your faculty, being with each other. Like, it's one of the things that is exciting about being a college student. And so our faculty being able to actually translate their entire syllabus and all of their instruction into online like that. They had to do it like that, or even your Office of Financial Aid, or your Bursar, or all of these little places where the students have been getting services and living their college life. Everyone had to transform what they do. So I keep on commending the campus from first managing crisis and then moving to what I call COVID maintenance. The crisis was the spring. The maintenance is what we're doing right now.
Right.
We've never welcomed a class of students in the fall in this way, ever. Nobody has. And so it's very different. In the spring, it was like, okay, we could just get them to the finish line and get them done.
Right, get through it.
This has been a totally different experience, right? To prepare for your fall, to feel like you wanted that exciting back to school feeling. But you have to do it without being in person. And so we have very few students on campus, only those few students who are doing some clinical work. And we try to pay very close attention to the commitment that CUNY Central and the campus has made to safety and health. And that means as few as possible at this time.
Right, right. Now, so many of us, as we're still in the pandemic and many still in semi-lockdown, not New York. I mean, we've done miraculous, things, but going back to campuses is not one of the things. And even lower, elementary and high schools are facing the same problem. Now, we all perceive this as something of a disaster, that has struck us. But I've been reading some of the technology people who say, no, what this has done is just moved us several years ahead in what life would have been like anyway because of technology. Do you view it that way?
I would actually say that it's probably a 50-50 proposition around people having to resolve their feelings around the role of technology in education, right? So
Right.
that is, I think, what people are sort of toying with, trying to figure out their comfort level, right? Because of course, no one wants to become replaceable, right? Or be seen as not needed, right? And so I think the other piece that is happening is this resource and talent dilemma that everybody is talking about. Well, okay, well, if we can do that virtually, why would we need a person? And so I think there's sort of this space, right, between, yes, it did push us to a place that we probably would have ended up in,
Right.
but the nuance of being sure the quality is there, right? Being sure that the other pieces are not lost. It's huge. It's still huge. And so there's tweaking to be done. It's not as simple as a, turn on a light switch and I don't
Right.
think it's going to happen.
Right. But what's raised is the whole question of all of the people who have been in those positions of teaching classes in person, a whole, I
Yep.
don't know how many generations, hundreds of years of that being
Mhm.
a full-time esteemed profession, and having a
Exactly.
college degree, also a thing that was esteemed and
Yeah.
worked for and assumed that you really needed a college degree. Where are we on those two fronts? As life
Well,
is changing, as work is changing, do we still need college degrees?
of course, I'm going to be a person that's going to say resoundingly yes, for a variety of reasons. But I do think that workforce development and an understanding of the future of work in our country and in the world is going to continue to require deep research and connection to communities, particularly like the CUNY students, my particular students. The reason I say that is because the great divide between technological education, right, and the actual professions of the future is where we are right now, right? And so not only is a college degree still a thing valued and worth getting, it's just a matter of whether or not the students understand in what majors, right? And what
Right.
kinds of careers, how will work be different? How do they market themselves different? It's just that I think those pieces of it have changed. They've evolved, right?
Right.
We see it happening. There's a lot of students right now who their choice of major is based in a totally different paradigm than you and I may have tried
Right.
to consider our future, right? When we were considering a profession, it is a different context for them. So I think what the universities have to do is level set the context conversation, right? And then be sure that they have what they need so they can be prepared for the workforce of the future. This
And so,
conversation that's been going on about whether or not it's worth your time, or
right.
are you guaranteed a career? I don't think that it's the appropriate way to measure whether or not education is needed or not. And I think that's been problematic.
So York is in the process of a strategic plan where all of these things are being considered. What are the majors of the future? What are the
Mhm.
jobs of the future? The whole, big change. Where do you see that going? What's like the key element that you're working on? Number one item that you have to address as you do that strategic plan?
So one of the things we're very committed to is increasing our graduation and retention rates, particularly because we have a majority of underrepresented students here, low-income students, first-generation students. So the proposition for transformation of their families and their lives is huge. And so we have to be sure that we've cleaned up any potential barriers that may get in their way, right? And be sure we have other opportunities for them, right? Around experiences, study away. A lot of our students may not ever study abroad, but they will study away. They will have a local internship that will change their life, right? They will volunteer with somebody like yourself or somebody else that will change their life. Trying to figure out those experiential pieces that they need that will catapult them along the way. So we have facilities at the center of our work because we do have quite a bit of work to do. Like any place else, things get old and we have to take care of them. We have definitely our graduation and retention rates. And then there is this conversation at the center of a lot of what's going on right now, which is around, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Right. And what can we do to help the students of today leave here feeling able to manage and live with each other, but have a different level of cultural competency, right? So right. You cannot call yourself a incubator for intellectual conversation and have the things that we have going on right now and not be part of that conversation. So that's a lot of, I think, what we'll also be doing.
Right. I think every sector of our country is looking at the systemic sexism, racism, that persists when we say systemic for years, where we've said, where's the diversity of the teaching staff? Where's the diversity everywhere? They seem to be almost intractable problems. But I do want to say that in terms of affordability, because that's another thing that comes in it. To go to college, costs so much money, and all of our students are going into so much debt. And I know that your tuition is about $7,000, where some other places it would be $40,000 or $50,000 a year, where this issue of not being in a classroom comes up, and still having to pay for that. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I think, there are quite a few people who are being challenged right now around whether or not virtual learning should be the same cost as non-virtual learning. But quite honestly, we've asked our faculty to deliver the same product and the same quality as they would no matter what. And we know that a CUNY education is much less expensive than many other venues in our country and has just as much value and quality, amazing faculty, all kinds of opportunities. It's been proven over and over again, right? That for every education that we provide to a CUNY graduate, that transformation in that person's family is exponential in its ability to help that family move from one place to another in the world, right? In many ways. I think one of the things that the opportunity we also have in this virtual space is to be a little bit more innovative. And I think that some of the faculty are taking a great opportunity to do so, right? So it's one thing to just be, as we are, camera to camera, face to face in this way, but there are a lot of them, I think, that are challenging themselves to learn about the use of other tools in technology so that it'll make it a little bit more vibrant, right? And so that the students won't feel like they're sitting in front of a camera all day long, just letting somebody drone on. It just, So particularly, so that's the difference between, I think, March and September. In March, as I said, we're just trying to get to finals, but now, people had a little bit of time to regroup and come fresh, right? And they have tried to figure out other ways to instruct the students and engage the students. And I think that I have been hearing that they are enjoying it, but they also have a little bit different experience than they did in the spring. So I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful.
Yeah, and I hear that you are doing a tremendous job. So we're thrilled that you are there. I'm a little worried about the student debt, though, of all of across this country. I think it's $1.53 trillion of debt, that people are still paying, sometimes 10, 15, 20 years after they've graduated. It's more than their credit card, their house in some instances. I think the average is like $30,000 a year of debt that, students come. How do we change that? We know that the economy is, caving into itself, and all of these people, former students who are now probably out of a job, most likely, and having this debt. I would say, we certainly need some kind of forgiveness that needs to be placed on that. And, what happens to the colleges then?
Well, I think there's quite a bit of advocacy at the federal, state, and city level, depending on where you are, right? Around debt and affordability and costs. We are probably going into some very hard times, no matter what. And that is, you know, related to the crisis that we're living in. But even with that said, one of the things that I think is important is that the students receive really thorough advising and counseling when they're registering, right? And that they
Right.
don't take on extra debt, right? And that they also have a schedule that's prepared for them so that they don't take extra semesters, right? So there's some efficiencies that we can provide as a campus to a student so that you're in school, and if you do actually have to take on some debt, that it's no more than you have to, right? And that you are moving along with a consistent clip, right? And so that you're not wasting any time, right? In that way, I think that's really important. And the way for us to make sure that happens is to have good advising, right? And good counseling around registration, right?
Right.
And a good understanding of what is debt and how much are you taking on. You know, I have a conversation very often with many professionals around the understanding that many people don't understand that debt, how much it's going to be, how it's going to work. You know, they just want to, in the moment, they want to be registered or they want to do whatever they want to do. And so
Right.
I'm trying to talk a little bit more about the holistic conversation, right? So that they understand all of those things before they get into them.
Great, great. I want to talk a little bit about, because you've come from California State University at Fullerton, where you were vice president of student affairs. And I guess it was just before you left or sometime while you were there, you were awarded with this, you know, VIP, this fabulous person. She did all of these things. I want to go through some of them because I know you're in your strategic plan now. So you helped develop the strategic plan there. But what is interesting to me is that you created a 27-member task force to address food and housing insecurity among your students. And, you know, certainly we know of students who are literally, you know, living in the hallways on campuses. And, you know, so talk to us about food insecurity as it concerns your current student body and what you might do to assist in that.
So I will say I'm really proud to have come to a campus that has a very healthy student-run food bank program that has even been active during COVID, which is amazing. They have a remote system set up and pickup times, and I mean it's just wonderful that the students are so dedicated to it. I think there's two pieces to doing that work. It's knowing the level of need that you actually are trying to tackle, and that's partly what I did in my last role, and I asked the team to do here. Food insecurity and housing, lack of housing, are two different challenges to tackle, and you cannot do them the same way. And so what I have asked, what I've asked is to have a conversation about need, but then also resources. We have a lot of very dedicated local electeds that have a lot of resources, and civic leaders who have been very helpful in joining with myself and others to make sure that the campus has resources to refer the students directly to, so they can get assistance. I think the other thing that we have to be mindful of is that there will be more, and we have to be more aggressive now. Because of the economy, because of all that is going on, that we've had students whose families have lost their jobs, and it's just a very different situation that we're going to be heading into. And so I think we are going to have to be a little bit more aggressive in figuring out the best way to address and help our students when they get in those types of crises.
Do you find that there is a simple Wi-Fi issue? I know that I've, talked with a lot of students who have expressed, that they don't have it, their families can't afford it. And so therefore remote learning becomes a moot issue. So
there are some, but what we did was try to set up a very aggressive coronavirus website and outreach project where we were able to give certain tools to the students who were in need. There was a great amount of hardware given out, and we are doing that every semester. And we try to make sure that it's not an issue of Wi-Fi or you not having a laptop or iPad or at least something so that you can engage in that way.
Right.
We have also tried to be mindful, because the students are so reliant on being together, we have to be very careful because it really is, they are missing being on campus. They really are missing being on campus. And so we have to also say that, if you need something, reach out to us. We have helplines, we have coronavirus website, we have technology help desk. We have a lot of people to call, right? And so, and I have held, I think now about 4 town hall meetings over the course of COVID, just to open up sort of my space. And during those town halls, I keep the chat open and I give announcements. And I ask how people are doing and, give more announcements and ask how people are doing. And so it's been helpful because it's been able to identify any gaps. Every once in a while in a crisis, you think you've done it all. And then you get in a town hall and somebody asks the most simplistic question. Right. And you go, oh, right. we didn't think of that. We didn't think of that. Right. So that's the reason we thought we were going to have. Yeah. We thought we were going to have 1 or 2 town halls, but now they just keep going.
That's tremendous. I do want to mention that among the other things you were cited for was starting a program to deal with historically disadvantaged men of color. And establishing a diversity program there at Cal State. One of the things we always ask is that the girls of color, young women of color, often seem to be left out of that conversation. And I noticed that just yesterday there was a $100 million a year philanthropy program launched to concentrate on Black girls and women. And is that something you think that needs to be done?
For sure. We have been looking and talking about underrepresentation of women in certain majors, right? And we continue to talk to faculty in STEM programs and other programs on campus about what we can do to better help our young ladies of color to be there and to become the future scholars, faculty, and chemists, right, and biologists, and all of those things. Right. So we definitely will have some, but the other thing is international leadership and leadership. I hope that in our future at York, there will be a conversation about women in leadership. I think that we could be a fantastic hub for that kind of center, that kind of work, particularly because of where we are here in Jamaica and all the amazing dynamic women leaders that are here locally, and how much they invest in younger women here. I think that we're ripe for having some kind of work here of that sort.
Right. Well, York is certainly lucky to have you. And now you have children who are being educated here as well, right?
I do. I'm a little bit of a late bloomer to having children. And so we have 2 tweens. My son is 13 and my daughter's 12.
Right. That's great. Great. And you're also doing remote learning, or have they gone back into the classroom?
They're doing, every day it changes,
Right.
but it's right. Mostly remote and hybrid. Yes. Yeah. Right. And they're doing well. It's a big transition, but they're doing well.
That's terrific. So you are, it seems to me that you have your mindset on tackling all of the issues that are facing your students. Are you optimistic about this new world that we are entering, that will be different in every single way for them than it was for, their friends who graduated 2 years ago?
Yeah, I'm very hopeful that they'll be resilient and that they will gain muscles from coping and thriving and surviving through COVID that they don't know that they'll have now, and that later on they'll look back and they will never be the same. They'll be different. They'll be stronger. They'll have skills that they don't even know that they've acquired. Right now, it probably is pretty painful and pretty lonely and very isolated. I'm very concerned about many of them around mental health and depression, right? And the social impact of having to be isolated and not be around people. But I think in the long run, the resilience and the strength that they will be able to show, and their understanding that the creature comforts that they do enjoy, no matter how large or small, they are privileged, right? And they may be a different level of gratitude may be present in this generation, right? when they actually are able to go back to embracing some of the things that they have missed. So the combination of being stronger and more grateful, I'm hopeful that that's what happens. And also just very energetic and understanding that no day is promised and you got to get out there and get to it. I hope that they will have a fighting spirit coming out of COVID and be able to go for it.
Well, with you in leadership at York College, I am sure that they have a better chance than most. Thank you so much, Dr. Eanes, for being with us today. I know your students are in good stead having you in leadership. Welcome to the CUNY family once again. And thank you to all of you watching out there today, too. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America, and we'll see you the next time.